Sometimes the universe forces us to see what we've been blind to all along. Before we begin, please hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to hear is a story about invisible people, second chances, and the collision of two worlds that should never have been so far apart. Victoria Chen stood in the empty executive suite on the 43rd floor of Chen Technologies, her reflection ghost-like in the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle. It was 11:30 at night. Again. The city spread below her like a circuit board, every light a connection she controlled, every building a testament to ambition. Her own face stared back at her, flawless makeup now worn, designer blazer perfectly tailored but somehow hollow. 38 years old, chief executive officer of a $3 billion tech empire, featured in Forbes, Fortune, Time. The woman who took her father's struggling semiconductor company and transformed it into an AI powerhouse. Victoria Chen had everything except her daughter. She turned from the window and walked back to her desk, the click of her heels swallowed by thick carpet. On the credenza behind her leather chair sat a silver-framed photograph, 8 by 10, professionally shot. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, with Victoria's dark eyes and her late husband's gentle smile. Lily Chen, forever 7, forever smiling, forever gone. Victoria reached out to touch the frame, then stopped herself. She'd made that mistake before, letting her fingers linger, letting the grief crack through. Work was the armor. Numbers didn't betray you. Quarterly reports didn't die in hospital beds. She gathered her laptop and purse. Time to go home to the empty penthouse in Belltown, pour a glass of wine she wouldn't finish, and stare at the same 4 walls until exhaustion pulled her under. Same routine. Every night. For 3 years, the executive floor was dark, silent. Victoria walked past rows of empty offices, glass walls reflecting her solitary figure again and again. She reached the elevator and pressed the button. That's when she heard it. A sound. Quiet, muffled, coming from the conference room at the end of the hall. Victoria froze. Security made rounds at 11. The night cleaning crew wasn't scheduled until midnight. She stood perfectly still, listening. There it was again, a soft, broken sound. Someone was crying. Her hand moved to her phone, finger hovering over security's number. But something stopped her. The sound wasn't threatening. It was devastated, raw, the kind of crying you do when you think no one can hear you. Victoria walked toward the conference room, her heels now deliberate whispers against the floor. The door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light cutting across the dark hallway. She approached slowly and looked inside. A man sat at the long conference table, his back to the door. He wore the gray uniform of the building's janitorial staff, the fabric worn at the shoulders, his cleaning cart parked nearby. His head was bowed, shoulders shaking. In his calloused hands, he held something small. Victoria's breath caught. It was a photograph, her photograph, the silver-framed picture of Lily from her desk. The man was staring at her daughter's face, tears streaming down his weathered cheeks, his lips moving in silent words. He touched the glass gently, reverently, as if the little girl in the picture might somehow feel his tenderness. Victoria's heart hammered against her ribs. Confusion flooded through her, then something darker. Suspicion, fear. Who was this man? Why was he in her office? Why did he have Lily's photograph? She pushed the door open. The sound made him jump. He twisted in his chair, eyes wide with panic, still clutching the frame. He was maybe 45, Latino, with graying hair and deep lines around his eyes that spoke of hard years and harder nights. His face was wet, his hands trembling so violently the frame rattled. I'm sorry, ma'am, he stammered, standing so quickly the chair scraped backward. I wasn't stealing, I swear, I was just... His voice broke. He looked down at the photograph in his hands, then back at Victoria. and something in his expression shifted from fear to something else. Recognition, grief, relief. "Please don't call security," he whispered. "I can explain." Victoria's voice came out colder than she intended, a defense mechanism honed by boardrooms and hostile takeovers. "You're in my office. You have a photograph of my daughter. Start explaining." The man swallowed hard. He set the frame carefully on the table, his hands still shaking, and wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse, thick with emotion. "My name is Rafael Santos. I clean this building, floors 30 through 50, 5 nights a week." He paused, struggling. "I've worked here for 8 months, and every night when I clean your office, I see this picture." "That doesn't explain why you're crying over it," Victoria said, her arms crossed, body rigid. "Or why you removed it from my desk." Raphael's eyes filled again. "Because I know her." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. Victoria felt the floor tilt beneath her. "What did you say?" "I know your daughter." Raphael's voice cracked. "I knew Lily." Victoria's legs went weak. She gripped the edge of the conference table. "That's impossible. My daughter died 3 years ago. She was 7. She had leukemia." Each word was a knife she'd learned to swallow. "You couldn't have known her." Raphael nodded, tears spilling over again. "Seattle Children's Hospital, the cancer ward, 2022. I was there every day for 6 months with my son, Diego. He had lymphoma. Room 417. He met Victoria's eyes. Lily was in room 419. Victoria's breath stopped. Room 419, the room with the window overlooking the courtyard. The room where Lily spent her final weeks. The room Victoria could still see when she closed her eyes. Every detail burned into her memory. The machines, the tubes, the too bright, the chair where she'd slept when she could sleep at all. "You were there?" Victoria whispered. "Every day," Raphael said. "My wife had died 2 years before. Cancer, too. Diego was all I had left. I worked mornings then, maintenance at a warehouse, so I could spend afternoons and nights with him." His voice steadied slightly, as if telling the story gave him something to hold on to. "The kids on that floor, they all knew each other. Room to room, they'd talk through the walls, or during treatments, or in the playroom when they were strong enough." Victoria sank into a chair. She remembered. Lily had talked about the other children. The boy next door who liked dinosaurs. The girl down the hall who did magic tricks. But Victoria had been so consumed with medical consultations, clinical trials, experimental treatments, fighting with insurance companies that she'd barely registered their faces. Diego and Lily became friends. Raphael continued, his voice soft now, almost tender. Real friends. She'd draw pictures and slide them under his door. He'd fold origami animals and leave them outside her room. When they both felt strong enough, they'd meet in the playroom. She taught him to play chess. He taught her Spanish words. Tears blurred Victoria's vision. She hadn't known. She'd been too busy trying to save Lily to see that Lily was already living. One night, Raphael said, his voice breaking again, Diego had a bad reaction to treatment. High fever, seizures. They had to put him in isolation. He was terrified, kept asking for his friend, for Lily. Victoria looked up at Raphael. He was crying openly now, not trying to hide it. "Your daughter snuck out of her room. She was so weak, ma'am. She could barely walk. But she came to his window, pressed her hand against the glass, and stayed there for 2 hours, just so he wouldn't be alone." Raphael's voice dissolved into a sob. "She saved my son that night, not with medicine, with kindness, with her presence." Diego stopped panicking. His fever broke, and he told me, "Dad, Lily's an angel." Victoria covered her face with her hands. The memory surfaced, sharp and painful. She'd found Lily's bed empty that night, had panicked, searched frantically, found her daughter sitting on the floor outside another child's isolation room, pale and exhausted but smiling. Victoria had been furious, terrified, had carried Lily back to bed and lectured her about risks and infections and rules. She'd never asked why Lily had gone, never asked who she'd been visiting. "I tried to thank you," Raphael said quietly. "The next day I came to your daughter's room, but you weren't there. I left a note with the nurse. I don't think you ever got it." Victoria hadn't. She'd been meeting with yet another specialist, chasing yet another treatment option that would ultimately fail. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. "Diego got better," Raphael said, a small, pained smile crossing his face. "His cancer went into remission, but by then Lily—" He stopped, unable to finish. "She died," Victoria said flatly, 6 weeks after Diego's crisis, August 14, 2022, 3:37 a.m. Raphael bowed his head. "I'm so sorry. Diego wanted to say goodbye, but we'd already been discharged. I asked the hospital to pass along a message, but I don't know if it reached you." It hadn't. Or maybe it had, lost in the avalanche of condolence cards and flowers and meals Victoria had never touched. "After Diego recovered," Raphael continued, "I quit my warehouse job, started working nights. I couldn't be around people during the day, couldn't pretend to be normal. Night work suited me, invisible, alone." He looked around the empty conference room. "I've cleaned hundreds of offices, thousands. But 8 months ago, when I was assigned this floor, I walked into your office and saw that picture, and I just—" His voice failed him. "You recognized her," Victoria finished. "I'll never forget her face, ma'am. Never." Raphael wiped his eyes roughly. "Every night I come to your office last. I spend a few extra minutes. I tell her thank you. I tell her that Diego's doing well. He's 15 now. Plays soccer, loves science, wants to be a doctor." Raphael's voice filled with pride, then broke again. "Because of her. Because your daughter gave him hope when he needed it most." Victoria stood slowly, her legs unsteady. She walked to the table, picked up the silver frame, and looked at her daughter's face. Lily. Her baby, the little girl she'd failed to truly see in those final months, too busy fighting death to celebrate life. "Where is Diego now?" Victoria asked quietly. "Home," Raphael said. "With his grandmother. My mother-in-law, she helps me. I work nights, sleep mornings, spend afternoons with him. It's not much, but it's enough. He's alive. He's happy." Raphael's eyes met Victoria's. "I think about your daughter every single day. I light a candle for her every week. Diego does too. We pray for her, for you." Something cracked open in Victoria's chest, a fissure in the armor she'd built so carefully. This man, this janitor she'd walked past 100 times without seeing, had loved her daughter, had been saved by her daughter, had carried Lily's memory with more tenderness than Victoria had allowed herself in 3 years. "I'm sorry I took the picture," Raphael said, starting to move toward his cleaning cart. "I should go. I won't bother you again." "Wait," Victoria said. Raphael stopped. Victoria looked at the photograph in her hands, then at Raphael, and for the first time in 3 years, she asked a question she'd been too afraid to voice. "Tell me more about her, about who she was. In that hospital, the things I missed." Raphael turned back slowly, hope flickering in his exhausted eyes. And Victoria Chen, the woman who controlled a $3 billion empire, who commanded boardrooms and crushed competitors, sat down at the conference table and listened to a janitor tell her stories about her own daughter, stories about kindness and bravery and joy in the darkest place, Stories about the little girl Victoria had been too scared to fully see, too desperate to save, too busy fighting to simply love. By the time Raphael finished talking, it was past midnight. The city lights below had thinned. The building was silent except for their voices, and Victoria realized something that made her heart ache. This stranger knew her daughter better than she had in those final months. "Raphael," Victoria said quietly, "how long is your shift?" "Until 6 a.m., ma'am." Victoria nodded slowly. She stood, still holding Lily's photograph, and made a decision that would change everything. "I'd like to meet Diego, if that's all right with you." Raphael's eyes widened. You want to meet my son?" "The boy my daughter saved," Victoria said, her voice steady now, certain. "Yes, I want to meet him." And in that moment, in an empty conference room on the 43rd floor, two broken people who'd been invisible to each other began to see what had been there all along: hope, connection, a reason to stop running from grief and start honoring the life that was lost. But neither of them knew yet how deeply their worlds would intertwine, or how much healing was still to come. 3 days passed before Victoria found the courage to follow through. She'd given Raphael her personal cell phone number that night, something she never did. Her assistant managed her calendar, screened her calls, kept the world at arm's length. But she'd pulled out her phone, typed her number into Raphael's ancient flip phone herself, and said, "Call me when you're ready." Raphael had looked at the number like it was a lottery ticket he didn't trust. "You really want to meet Diego?" "I really do." Now it was Saturday morning, and Victoria sat in her car outside a modest apartment complex in Rainier Valley, 40 minutes south of her penthouse. The building was 3 stories, pale yellow paint peeling near the gutters, a chain-link fence separating a small courtyard from the street. Children's bikes leaned against the fence. A cat sunned itself on a concrete step. Victoria's Mercedes felt obscene here, all black leather and chrome, worth more than most people in this neighborhood made in 2 years. She'd almost taken an Uber, almost, but showing up in someone else's car felt like cowardice, and Victoria Chen wasn't a coward. She was terrified, though. Her phone buzzed. Raphael's text, sent slowly, one word at a time, with long pauses between. "We are in apartment 2C. Come whenever you are ready. No pressure." Victoria looked at herself in the rearview mirror. She'd changed clothes 4 times this morning. The power suit felt wrong. The designer jeans felt false. She'd settled on simple black pants, a gray sweater, minimal jewelry. She looked like a woman trying not to look wealthy and failing. She got out of the car. The courtyard smelled like someone's laundry and fresh-cut grass. 2 little girls played hopscotch on the cracked pavement, their laughter bright and uncomplicated. They stopped to stare at Victoria as she passed. She smiled awkwardly. They giggled and returned to their game. Apartment 2C was on the 2nd floor, accessed by an exterior staircase with a wobbly handrail. Victoria climbed slowly, her heart beating faster with each step. At the top, she found the door. Faded green paint. A small mezuzah nailed to the doorframe. Though Raphael was Catholic, maybe the previous tenant, a welcome mat that said "Home Sweet Home" in cheerful letters that had seen better days. Victoria raised her hand to knock. The door opened before she could. Raphael stood there, and he looked different. In the office, he'd been a uniform, a function, a presence she'd never truly registered. Now, in jeans and a clean white polo shirt, his hair combed back, his face anxious but hopeful. He was a person, a father, someone trying his best. "Ms. Chen," he said, "thank you for coming." "Victoria," she said, "please call me Victoria." Raphael nodded, but she could tell he wouldn't. Old habits, class boundaries that lived in the language itself. He stepped aside. "Please come in." Victoria entered a small living room, maybe 12 feet by 15 feet. A worn couch faced a modest television. The carpet was old but clean, vacuumed recently. Family photos covered one wall, a gallery of memories in mismatched frames. The kitchen was visible through an open doorway, linoleum floors, appliances from another decade. But everything was tidy, cared for. The scent of fresh coffee and something baking filled the air. An older woman emerged from the kitchen, maybe 65, with kind eyes and silver-streaked black hair pulled into a bun. She wore an apron dusted with flour. "This is Rosa," Raphael said, "my mother-in-law, Diego's grandmother." Rosa wiped her hands on her apron and extended one to Victoria. Her handshake was firm, warm. "Welcome to our home. Raphael has told me about you, about your daughter." Her English carried a thick accent, but her eyes carried perfect understanding. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Victoria said, throat tight. "I'm sorry for you." Rosa nodded. They understood each other. The club no one wants to join. "Diego is in his room," Raphael said. "He's nervous. He wasn't sure you'd really come." "I promised I would." "People break promises," Raphael said simply, not bitter, just a fact. Victoria followed Raphael down a narrow hallway. 2 doors, both closed. One had a handmade sign that said Diego's room with a painted soccer ball. Raphael knocked gently. "Mijo, she's here." A pause. Then a young voice, tentative. "Okay." Raphael opened the door. The room was small, maybe 10 feet square. A twin bed with a blue comforter, posters of soccer players on the walls, a desk with textbooks stacked neatly, a bookshelf overflowing. The window had curtains with planets and stars. In the corner, a telescope on a tripod, pointing toward the sky. And sitting on the bed, a boy, 15 years old, tall for his age, lanky with Raphael's dark eyes and his mother's delicate features. His hair was thick, curling slightly at the ends. He wore a soccer jersey, jeans, white socks. His hands fidgeted in his lap. When Victoria stepped into the room, Diego looked up, and Victoria gasped, because Diego wore a bracelet on his wrist. A friendship bracelet woven in pink and purple thread, faded from years of wear. And Victoria knew that bracelet, had watched Lily weave it during one of her good days, humming while her small fingers worked the threads into patterns. "That's—" Victoria's voice broke. Diego looked down at his wrist, then back at Victoria, eyes filling with tears. "Lily made it for me. She gave it to me the day before I got discharged from the hospital. She said it was so I'd remember her." His voice cracked. "I've never taken it off." Victoria's legs gave out. She sank onto the edge of Diego's bed, tears streaming down her face. "She made you that." "She was my best friend," Diego whispered. "I know that sounds weird, like we only knew each other for a few months, but she was. She understood. She wasn't scared of dying. She was just scared of not mattering." Victoria looked at this boy, this young man, who'd survived what her daughter hadn't. And instead of resentment, she felt overwhelming gratitude. Lily had mattered. Lily had been loved. "Can I tell you about her?" Diego asked. "The things she told me?" Victoria nodded, unable to speak. And Diego talked. He told her how Lily loved astronomy, how she'd made him promise that when he got better, he'd look at the stars and think of her. That's why he had the telescope. He told her how Lily used to sneak extra pudding cups from the meal carts and share them with kids who were too sick to eat much. How she'd organize card games in the playroom, making up ridiculous rules that made everyone laugh. How she'd record herself singing lullabies on the nurses' phones so the younger kids could listen when they were scared at night. "She talked about you all the time," Diego said. "She'd say, 'My mom is so strong, she never cries in front of me. She's like a superhero.' She was really proud of you." Victoria's chest ached. "I wasn't strong. I was terrified. I just didn't want her to see." "She knew," Diego said gently. "She told me once, 'My mom thinks she has to be brave for me, but I'm trying to be brave for her too. We're both pretending." He smiled through tears. She was really smart. "She was," Victoria whispered. Raphael stood in the doorway, giving them space, his own eyes wet. "Can I show you something?" Diego asked. Victoria nodded. Diego opened his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were drawings, dozens of them. Lily's drawings, the ones she'd slipped under Diego's door, pictures of stars and planets, a girl and a boy playing chess, two kids holding hands with the words "Friends Forever" in Lily's careful handwriting, a picture of a house with a garden and the words "Where we'll play when we're better." Victoria touched each one reverently. Would it be okay if I took photos of these?" "You can keep them," Diego said immediately. "They're yours. She was your daughter." "No," Victoria said, looking at him. "She gave them to you. They're yours. But maybe I could come back sometime and look at them again." Diego's face lit up. "Really? You'd come back? If that's okay with you? That'd be awesome. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one." They talked for 2 hours. Raphael eventually joined them, sitting on the floor with his back against the wall, adding his own memories. Rosa brought coffee for the adults, hot chocolate for Diego, and fresh pan dulce she'd made that morning. Victoria learned that Diego was a straight-A student, that he volunteered at a youth center teaching younger kids science, that he wanted to become a pediatric oncologist because of what he'd experienced. "I want to be like Dr. Martinez," Diego said. "She was my doctor. She never gave up on me, even when things looked really bad. And I want to be like Lily. She made everyone feel like they mattered." "You're already like her," Victoria said. "Your father told me you volunteer with kids. That's what Lily would have done." Diego ducked his head, embarrassed but pleased. As the afternoon faded into evening, Rosa insisted Victoria stay for dinner. Victoria started to decline, reflexively, then stopped herself. When was the last time she'd had dinner with people? Real people, not business associates at expensive restaurants where the food was art and the conversation was strategy. "I'd like that," Victoria said. "Thank you." Dinner was simple. Chicken with rice, beans, fresh tortillas, Rosa made by hand. They ate at a small table in the kitchen, elbows nearly touching, passing dishes, laughing when Diego told stories about his soccer team's disastrous game last weekend. It was warm, loud, alive. Victoria couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this present. After dinner, Diego showed Victoria his telescope. They went out to the small balcony where the city lights made the stars harder to see. But Diego patiently pointed out Jupiter, Mars, found the constellation Lily had loved most, Cassiopeia. "She said she'd become a star," Diego said quietly, "so she could watch over everyone. Sometimes when I look up, I think I can tell which one is her. It's probably stupid." "It's not stupid," Victoria said. "It's beautiful." Inside, Rosa washed dishes while Raphael dried. Victoria offered to help, but Rosa shooed her away, with a warm smile and a firm hand. "You're a guest. Sit, talk, rest." So Victoria sat on the worn couch and watched this family move around each other with practiced ease. The way Diego brought his grandmother a glass of water without being asked. The way Raphael touched his son's shoulder in passing. A quick squeeze of pride and love. The way Rosa hummed while she worked. The same melody over and over, something old and comforting. This apartment was a fraction of the size of Victoria's penthouse. The furniture was second-hand. The appliances didn't match. But it was full of something Victoria's home hadn't had in years. Love. Present, tangible, everyday love. "Raphael," Victoria said as he put away the last dish. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." Why did you quit your day job after Diego recovered? You said it was because you couldn't be around people, but was there more? Rafael dried his hands slowly on a towel. He glanced at Diego, who was showing Rosa something on his phone, both of them laughing. Then he sat down in the chair across from Victoria. The warehouse where I worked, they were good people, union job, decent pay. But when Diego was sick, I used up all my vacation days, my sick days. Then I took unpaid leave. They held my job, which was kind of them. But when Diego recovered and I went back, I realized something. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I'd spent 6 months barely sleeping, living in that hospital, watching my son fight for his life. And when it was over, when he was okay, I couldn't just go back to normal. The noise of the warehouse, the people asking how I was doing, wanting to celebrate, wanting me to be grateful and happy. I was grateful, but I was also broken. Rafael's voice was steady, but his eyes were distant. Every time I looked at Diego, I saw Lily. I saw the kids who didn't make it. I saw my wife, who died of the same disease 3 years earlier. I couldn't be around people during the day, couldn't pretend to be whole, so I found night work, janitorial services. They needed people, I needed solitude. It paid less, but Rosa helped Diego, and we made it work. You sacrificed a better job to have space to grieve, Victoria said. I sacrificed a better job to survive, Rafael corrected gently. Some days, that's the same thing. Victoria understood that in her bones. What about you? Rafael asked. Forgive me if this is too personal, but Diego mentioned your husband. Diego saw a picture of him in one of Lily's drawings. Victoria's throat tightened. She hadn't talked about Marcus in years, but something about this space, these people, made the words come easier. Marcus was a civil engineer we met in college. He was brilliant, kind, patient, everything I'm not. She smiled sadly. He died when Lily was 4, heart condition no one knew he had. Collapsed at work one morning. By the time they got him to the hospital, it was too late. Rosa crossed herself from the kitchen. 3 years later, Lily got sick, Victoria continued. And I just kept thinking, Marcus would know what to do. He always knew what to do. He'd know how to make her less scared, how to keep hope alive. But he was gone and I was alone, and I didn't know how to be both mother and father, didn't know how to be strong and soft at the same time. So you chose strong, Rafael said. I chose work, Victoria said. I threw myself into the company, made it bigger, more successful, more powerful, because that was something I could control. I couldn't control cancer, couldn't control death, but I could control market share and quarterly earnings. She laughed bitterly, for all the good it did. But you kept her alive as long as possible, Rafael said. You got her the best doctors, the best care. Diego told me. He said Lily's room had every comfort, every toy, every treatment option. You gave her that. I gave her everything except my full presence, Victoria said. I was there physically, but emotionally, I was already preparing for her to die, already building walls so it wouldn't destroy me. She looked at Rafael. It destroyed me anyway. They sat in silence for a moment. What if we'd met then? Rafael asked quietly. At the hospital. What if I'd tried to talk to you? I wouldn't have seen you, Victoria admitted. I saw doctors, nurses, specialists. I didn't see janitors or food service workers or other parents. I was so focused on saving her that I missed who she was becoming, who she was. But you see now, Rafael said, I'm starting to. Diego came over, phone in hand. Dad, Abuela wants to know if Victoria likes flan. She's making some for tomorrow. Rafael looked at Victoria. Are you free tomorrow? Sunday dinner? It's kind of a tradition here. Victoria thought about her calendar. Empty, as always. Her Sundays were usually spent working from home, responding to emails, preparing for Monday meetings. Alone in her penthouse with the view of the city, and the silence she'd convinced herself she preferred. "I'm free," she said. Diego grinned. "Awesome. Abuela makes the best flan. And maybe you could tell me more about Lily, like what she was like when she was little, before she got sick." Victoria's heart squeezed. "I'd like that." Over the next 3 weeks, Victoria became a regular at the Santos apartment. She came for dinner every Sunday. Then she started coming on Wednesdays too, helping Diego with his college entrance essay. Then Saturdays, watching his soccer games from the bleachers, cheering alongside Rosa and Rafael. The other parents gave her curious looks. This polished woman in expensive casual wear, clearly not from the neighborhood, sitting with the Santos family. Victoria didn't care. She was learning what it meant to show up, to be present, to let herself be part of something without controlling it. She learned that Rafael woke at 3 p.m. every day, made Diego a snack, helped with homework, made dinner with Rosa, then headed to work at 10 p.m., that he survived on 5 hours of sleep, that every dollar he made went to keeping Diego's future secure, paying for SAT prep courses and college application fees. He could have gone to college himself, Rosa told Victoria one afternoon while they prepared dinner together. Victoria had never cooked with anyone before. It was awkward and wonderful. Raphael was very smart, very good at mathematics, but his parents died, then he had to work. Then he married my daughter, God rest her, and they had Diego. Always he put others first. "He's a good man," Victoria said. "The best," Rosa agreed. "But so tired, he works too hard, sleeps too little. I worry." Victoria worried too. She'd noticed the shadows under Raphael's eyes deepening, the way he moved a little slower, the cough he tried to hide. One night after dinner, Victoria found Raphael on the balcony, staring out at the city lights. "You should see a doctor," she said without preamble. Raphael startled. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You've been coughing for 2 weeks. It's just a cold." "Raphael," Victoria's voice was firm, "I know what denial looks like. I lived it for months with Lily, ignoring signs, hoping they'd go away. Please, see a doctor." Raphael was quiet for a long time. Then, "I don't have insurance. The janitorial company doesn't offer it for part-time employees, and I can't afford the premiums for private insurance." Victoria opened her mouth, then closed it. Her first instinct was to offer to pay. She could write a check right now, solve this problem with money, the way she solved every problem. But she remembered the framework she'd been learning from this family. Dignity, agency, partnership, not rescue. "What if we found you insurance?" Victoria said. "Through Chen Technologies, we have openings in facilities management. Better pay, full benefits, day shift so you could sleep at night." Raphael shook his head. "I can't accept charity." "It's not charity. We need good people. You're a good person. It's a job, Raphael. You'd earn it." "I clean toilets. I don't manage facilities." "You've been doing facility maintenance for 15 years. You know every system in that building better than most of our day managers. I've watched you work. You're detail-oriented, reliable, conscientious." Victoria met his eyes. "I'm offering you a job you're qualified for, if you want it." Raphael's jaw worked, pride warring with pragmatism. "Think about it," Victoria said. "Talk to Diego, to Rosa, but please get that cough checked, for Diego's sake if not your own." 2 days later, Raphael called her. "About that job." Raphael started at Chen Technologies 2 weeks later. Day shift facilities manager, full benefits, salary of $65,000 a year, nearly double what he'd been making. Victoria made sure HR processed everything properly, no special treatment, no shortcuts. He earned the position, but 3 days into the new job, Raphael collapsed. Victoria was in a meeting when her assistant interrupted, something she never did. "Ms. Chen, there's an emergency. Rafael Santos, he's been taken to the hospital." Victoria's blood went cold. She was out of her chair before her assistant finished speaking, grabbing her coat, her keys, not bothering with explanations to the confused executives around the conference table. She drove to Harborview Medical Center, breaking every speed limit, her hands shaking on the wheel. Not again. Please, not again. Rosa and Diego were already in the waiting room when Victoria arrived. Rosa's face was drawn, Diego's eyes red from crying. Victoria pulled them both into a fierce hug. "What happened?" "Pneumonia," Rosa said, her accent thicker with stress. "Very bad. They say his immune system is weak, maybe from stress, not sleeping enough for so many years. They have him on oxygen, antibiotics. They don't know if—" Her voice broke. Diego buried his face in Victoria's shoulder. "I can't lose him too, I can't." "You won't," Victoria said with a certainty she didn't feel. "He's strong. He's fought for you his whole life. He's not giving up now." They waited for hours. Victoria sat between Rosa and Diego, holding their hands, the three of them bound together by love for a man who'd given everything to everyone else. Finally, a doctor emerged. Dr. Sarah Kim, young, efficient, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Family of Rafael Santos," they stood as one. "He's stable," Dr. Kim said, and Rosa sobbed with relief. "The pneumonia is severe, but we caught it in time. He'll need to stay here for at least a week, maybe 2. Complete rest, IV antibiotics, monitoring." She looked at her chart. "I have to be honest. His body is exhausted. Years of inadequate sleep, poor nutrition, chronic stress. This pneumonia is a symptom of a larger problem. He's been running on empty for too long." "Can we see him?" Diego asked. "Soon. He's sleeping now, but when he wakes—" "Yes." Victoria stayed with Rosa and Diego through the night. She ordered food. Neither of them ate. She called Diego's school, explained the situation, and arranged for his homework to be sent electronically. She sat in uncomfortable plastic chairs and remembered another hospital, another vigil, another fight against time and biology, but this time she wasn't alone. And this time, she could help. When Rafael woke the next morning, weak but alert, he saw the three of them surrounding his bed. His eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," he whispered hoarsely. "The new job. I didn't want to let you down." "You didn't let anyone down," Victoria said firmly. "You've been taking care of everyone else for 15 years. Now it's our turn to take care of you." "I can't afford—" Rafael started. "You have insurance now," Victoria interrupted. "Good insurance. Everything is covered. And you're not going back to work until you're completely healed. Doctor's orders and mine." Rafael tried to argue, but Rosa silenced him with rapid Spanish and a look that clearly meant she'd heard enough nonsense. Diego held his father's hand and didn't let go. Over the next 2 weeks, Victoria restructured her life in ways that would have been unthinkable months earlier. She delegated 3 major projects to her executive team. She moved meetings to mornings only. She spent every afternoon and evening at the hospital with Rafael, Rosa, and Diego. She read to Rafael when he was too weak to hold a book. She played chess with Diego in the hospital cafeteria. She learned to make Rosa's famous chicken soup, writing down the recipe in her phone while Rosa supervised via video call from Rafael's room. And she talked to Rafael, really talked, about Lily, about Marcus, about the empire she'd built to avoid, feeling anything real, about the loneliness of success, the poverty of a life measured only in achievements. "I thought if I made the company successful enough, if I accomplished enough, it would mean Marcus's death and Lily's death had some purpose," Victoria confessed one quiet evening. "Like I could balance the scales. Great professional success for great personal loss." Rafael, still weak but healing, shook his head slowly. "Loss isn't balanced by success. It's balanced by love, by showing up for people, by letting yourself be human." "You sound like a philosopher." "I sound like a man who learned the hard way." Raphael smiled. When my wife died, I thought if I could just keep Diego alive, keep him happy, that would be enough. But I was so focused on surviving that I forgot to live, until Diego got sick and suddenly all that mattered was being present. Really present. Not just physically there, but emotionally available. How did you learn that? Lily taught me, Raphael said simply. She told Diego once, and Diego told me, my mom is always here, but sometimes I think she's really far away. It broke my heart because I realized I was doing the same thing, working to provide, but emotionally absent. After she died, after Diego recovered, I promised myself I'd never be far away again, even when I was in the same room. Victoria wiped her eyes. She was 7 years old and wiser than both of us. Children often are. Raphael was discharged after 18 days. Victoria drove him home, Rosa fussing from the back seat, Diego riding shotgun and explaining his science fair project in excited detail. When they reached the apartment, Raphael moved slowly up the stairs, still weak but improving. Inside, Raphael stopped, stared. The apartment looked different. New furniture, still modest but sturdy. The flickering television was replaced with a newer model. The kitchen appliances were updated. Fresh paint on the walls, soft cream instead of dingy beige. Raphael turned to Victoria, understanding and hurt warring in his expression. You did this. We did this, Rosa said quickly, stepping forward. Victoria helped, yes, but I chose everything. Diego helped paint. This isn't charity, mijo. This is family taking care of family. I can't accept, Raphael started. Diego cut him off, his voice firm in a way Victoria had never heard. Dad, you've spent 15 years accepting nothing, giving everything, working yourself into the ground for me, for Abuela, for everyone. Can you please, for once, let people who love you take care of you? Raphael's face crumpled. He sat down heavily on the new couch and wept. Rosa and Diego surrounded him, and after a moment, so did Victoria. You're not alone anymore, Victoria said quietly. None of us are. The weeks that followed brought change, real change. Victoria restructured her role at Chen Technologies. She promoted her COO to handle day-to-day operations and moved herself to a strategic advisory position. She cut her hours from 80 a week to 40. She started actually going home at 6 p.m. She sold the empty penthouse in Belltown and bought a house in Rainier Valley, 3 blocks from Raphael's apartment. A real house with a yard, 4 bedrooms, a kitchen meant for cooking and talking and living. Raphael returned to work part-time, transitioning to a consulting role that let him work from home 3 days a week. His health improved slowly but steadily. Victoria started the Lily Chen Foundation, not a corporate charity for tax breaks, but a real organization dedicated to supporting families facing childhood cancer. Free counseling services, financial assistance, connection programs that matched families in treatment with families who'd survived, so no one had to walk the darkest roads alone. Diego was the first youth ambassador. Raphael helped design support programs. Rosa coordinated meal delivery services. 1 year after Victoria found Raphael crying over Lily's photograph, they gathered at Seattle Children's Hospital for the foundation's official launch. A dedicated playroom on the cancer ward, bright and warm and full of art supplies, games, books, musical instruments. On the wall, a mural painted by local artists. Children of all backgrounds holding hands, surrounded by stars. In the center, a plaque, the Lily Chen Memorial Playroom, where every child matters. Diego stood beside Victoria, now 16 and taller than his father, and read from a prepared statement. His voice was steady, clear, carrying to every person in the crowded room. Lily Chen saved my life twice. Once when I was sick and scared, and she reminded me that kindness matters more than fear. And once when she brought my family and hers together, even after she was gone. This playroom is for every kid who needs to know they're not alone, that they matter, that someone sees them. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. That evening, the four of them, Victoria, Raphael, Rosa, and Diego, had dinner at Victoria's new house. The table was large enough for everyone, with room for more. The kitchen smelled like Rosa's cooking and Victoria's experimental attempts at baking. They sat together, passing dishes, laughing at Diego's story about his soccer team's latest victory, making plans for Thanksgiving. "I've been thinking," Victoria said as they finished dessert. "I'd like to create a scholarship fund for kids who've survived cancer to help them go to college. Diego, you'd be the first recipient." Diego's eyes went wide. "Ms. Chen, I can't." "You can," Victoria said, "and you will, because you're brilliant and kind and you're going to be an incredible doctor. This isn't charity. It's an investment in someone Lily loved, someone I love." Raphael reached across the table and squeezed Victoria's hand. No words necessary. Later, after Rosa and Diego had gone home and Raphael was about to leave, Victoria walked him to the door. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For crying over my daughter's photograph, for remembering her, for showing me what I'd forgotten." Raphael smiled. "What's that?" "That success isn't measured in dollars or deals or headlines. It's measured in presence, in love, in showing up for people even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." "Lily knew that already," Raphael said. "She did, and now, finally, so do I." 3 years later, Victoria stood in the audience at Diego's high school graduation, cheering louder than anyone when he crossed the stage as valedictorian. Raphael stood beside her, healthy and proud, his arm around Rosa. Together they'd become something neither had expected, a family not bound by blood but by choice, by showing up, by refusing to let grief have the final word. That night, Victoria visited Lily's grave, bringing fresh flowers like she did every week now. But this time, she didn't cry. She smiled. "Your friend became a doctor, baby, just like he dreamed, and your kindness is still changing lives every day through the foundation. You were right all along. People need each other, and because of you, we found each other." She traced her daughter's name on the headstone, warm marble under her fingers. "I'm not alone anymore, Lily, and I'm finally living, not just surviving. I think you'd be proud." The wind rustled through the trees, and Victoria chose to believe it was her daughter's answer. "Yes, Mama, I'm so proud. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.